There's a reason master gardeners always talk about worms. These silent soil dwellers are some of the most powerful allies you can have in your garden. They don't just help, they transform. Worms tunnel through compacted dirt, oxygenate your soil, leave behind nutrient-dense castings, and naturally cycle organic material into something your plants can use. But while many gardeners dream of a worm-rich garden bed, most go about attracting them the wrong way. Here's the truth. Not every method you see online is worth your time. Some techniques are temporary thrills that give you movement but no long-term benefits. Others require less effort but offer huge rewards over time. If you're trying to establish a thriving worm-rich ecosystem, especially in tough or depleted soil, it's time to get strategic. Let's rank the top 5 worm-attracting methods based on their effectiveness, longevity, and impact on overall soil health. The best method isn't flashy, it's slow, methodical, and transformative. Worms are living indicators of soil quality, not just a resource to be collected. If they're not showing up, it's because something deeper is missing. That's why the #1 technique is about restoring balance from the ground up. At the very top of the list is the practice of conditioning your soil to actually welcome worms, not just lure them temporarily. This means going beyond surface tricks. It's about building structure, regulating moisture, and removing barriers that make your garden inhospitable. Compacted, dry, or chemically treated soils actively repel worms. But when you loosen the earth, remove synthetic inputs, and foster biological activity, you create a space where worms want to live, not just pass through. Think of it as habitat design for underground life. With consistent effort, this approach pays off with compounding returns. Worms reproduce, their castings build fertility, and your soil becomes self-sustaining. Right behind that, and closely connected, is the addition of organic matter. Worms are not only builders, they're eaters, and what they love to consume is partially decomposed plant matter. This includes compost, leaf mold, rotted manure, and garden debris. Unlike synthetic fertilizers, which worms often avoid, these organic inputs provide both food and fuel. When you apply them strategically, such as layering leaf litter beneath mulch or burying kitchen scraps in shallow trenches, you feed an entire underground web, and as microbial activity increases, worms follow. The beauty of this method is its adaptability. Whether you're gardening in containers, raised beds, or native soil, organic matter is the universal invitation. The third strategy, often overlooked, is managing moisture the right way. Worms breathe through their skin, and they need moist conditions to survive. But here's the catch. Too much water suffocates them, while too little sends them retreating deep underground. That's where mulch becomes your secret weapon. A well-mulched garden holds moisture like a sponge, even during dry spells. It keeps soil temperatures stable, provides cover, and reduces evaporation. Under a layer of wood chips, straw, or leaves, you'll often find worms hovering near the surface, busy at work. Maintaining that moisture sweet spot, where the soil feels damp but not soggy, is one of the most important things you can do to build a worm-hospitable garden. Coming in fourth is vermicomposting, keeping a worm bin or worm tower to break down organic scraps and harvest castings. This method is incredibly effective for producing nutrient-rich material, especially if you live in an apartment, have limited garden space, or just want more control. Red wigglers are surface dwellers that thrive in bins and compost piles, making them ideal for transforming food waste into black gold. But there's a limitation. These worms don't burrow deeply into garden soil like their earth-dwelling cousins. Unless you're actively transplanting them or burying the castings near your plants, the benefits stay contained to the bin. That's why this method ranks slightly lower. It's powerful, but doesn't directly build long-term worm populations in your beds unless paired with other strategies. And finally, at the bottom of the list, though still worth understanding, is worm charming. Also known as worm grunting or fiddling, this technique involves creating soil vibrations that mimic the sound of a predator like a mole. It causes worms to surface quickly, in response to the perceived danger. Some people use a garden fork and rub it with a stick, others pound a wooden stake into the ground and run a metal rod across it. It can be fascinating to watch, especially when the conditions are right. But despite its novelty, this method offers very little in terms of sustainable worm population growth. It can even be disruptive when overused, stressing worms or damaging their burrows. Use it for bait maybe. But if you're serious about creating a worm-rich garden, leave the grunting to folklore. So what's the takeaway from all of this? If you want to build a soil system that supports worms naturally, the solution isn't a trick or shortcut, it's a shift in mindset. Your goal is to create a permanent, welcoming environment. Start by improving the soil structure, stop tilling, feed your beds with real organic matter, keep the moisture levels stable, support microbial life. The worms will come, and once they do, they'll bring an entire soil ecosystem to life, one that improves fertility, drainage, and plant health without constant intervention. Worms aren't a commodity to be chased, they're a sign your soil is alive and working. So instead of relying on short-term tactics, start building a long-term worm strategy. Your plants will thank you, your compost will multiply, and your garden will thrive from the ground up. If you learned something new today or just realized you've been fiddling in the wrong direction, go ahead and subscribe to Hydrohaven. We're always digging deeper into the science of soil. Share this video with someone who's wondering where all their worms went, and let's grow smarter, together.